Video 36, Lesson 5.4, Equivalent Fractions. Take a look at this fraction wall. What this is, these are fraction sticks, and they're all lined up to show you how they match up. Okay, from here to here would be one whole. And then you can see how it gets divided if we divide it into halves, or thirds, fourths, or fifths, or sixths, eighths, tenths, and twelfths. So we can use this to help us find equivalent fractions. Let's say we needed to find equivalent fractions for 2/6, okay, and this is what it looks like. I can look up here and I can see, okay, 2/6 goes until this line right here. What else is that same amount? Well, 1/3 ends at that spot. So I could say that 1/3 is equivalent. What else lines up in this same spot? Here. 1, 2, 3, 4 twelfths. So I can say that 2/6 is equivalent to 1/3, and it's equivalent to 4 twelfths. Let's take a look at this one, 1/5. Okay, let's go up here and find 1/5. Here's our line. What is equivalent to 1/5? Okay, well, it looks like the only line here that matches up is this one here. And so what we have there is 1, 2 tenths. If we look at our solution here, okay, we can see, yep, 1/3 and 4 twelfths are equivalent to 2/6, and 2 tenths is equivalent to 1/5. Here's another one. Find equivalent fractions for 3/4. Okay, well, here's our fourths line. 1, 2, 3. 3/4 lines up right here. What else lines up at that line? Okay, the eighths line up. And how many eighths would that be? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 eighths. And the twelfths line up at this line. How many twelfths would that be? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 twelfths. So we can say that 3/4 is equivalent to 6 eighths and 9 twelfths. Let's check the solution. Right. 3/4 is equivalent to 6 eighths and 9 twelfths. That's how you can use these fraction sticks to help you figure out equivalent fractions. Now, you don't have to have fraction sticks in order to find equivalent fractions. Okay, another way, if you remember from 4th grade talking about this, you can find equivalent fractions by using a multiplication rule. And you can multiply your denominator and your numerator to find an equivalent fraction. The very important thing that you have to remember is that you need to multiply them by the same number. So if I multiply my denominator times 2, I also have to multiply my numerator times 2. So if I multiply them both times 2, 1/3 we can see is equivalent to 2/6. I can multiply them by 2 again and get 4 twelfths. What do I get if I multiply them by 2 again? Eight 24ths. And what do I get if I multiply by 2 again? 16 48ths. Now, what this tells us is that all of these fractions are equivalent. They're all equivalent to 1/3. Okay, let's try 1/5. What are we multiplying by here? Again, we're multiplying by 2. Okay, multiply by 2 again, we get 4/20. So if we multiply them both by 2 again, we have a numerator of 8, a denominator of 40. And what would be our equivalent fraction if we multiplied them by 2 again? Right, we would have 16/80. Okay, now let's take a look at the bottom one. We're starting at 3/4, and we're multiplying by, once again, by 2. Oh, but if I multiply this times 2, I don't get 9, I would get 12, and I wouldn't get 12 here, I would get 16, so I have to think, what am I multiplying by? And if I look at 6/8, it's hard to tell what I am multiplying by to get to 9/12. If this happens to you, I suggest that you go back to your beginning fraction, your 3/4. Could I multiply by something to get 9/12? 3 times 3 is 9. If I multiply 4 times 3, do I get 12? Absolutely. So here I multiplied the 3 times 3 and the 4 times 3 to get 9/12. Now, how else could I do this? I could either multiply this times something, or I could even go back to 3/4. Like if I wanted to, say I wanted to take 3/4 and multiply both the numerator and the denominator times 4. 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. Or I can build from here. I could multiply both of these by something. Let's say I wanted to multiply them by 2. 12 times 2 is 24. 16 times 2 is 32. This whole row has fractions that are equivalent. Sometimes it's just a little bit trickier to look for the equivalencies. Now let's take these fractions and let's put them on this number line in order. Now we've got a lot of fractions here, so I think I'm going to start with my unit fractions. So that means the numerator will be 1, because just be maybe a little easier to start there. So let's see, 1/4 I know is equivalent to 0.25 because it's 1/4. So I'm going to put that there, and 1/10 is labeled on our line here. Okay, now I'm just going to go to numerators of 2, I guess. I'll just take it that way. 2/3 I know is equivalent to 66 2/3. So I'm going to have to kind of a little bit estimate where this would end up. I'm not going to be able to find an exact point. 2/8 I know is the same as 1/4, so that one I'm going to put right above here. And I don't have any 3's for numerators, so let's go 4/16. Oh, that's also equivalent to 1/4, isn't it? And 4/5. Now, my numbers are divided into tenths, so I'm going to think 4/5 is equivalent to 8/10. So I'm going to put that one right here at 8/10. Oh, and I also have an 8/10 up here, so I'm just going to take that one right here. Let's see, 5/10. Yeah, that one's easy, right? 5/10, same as a half. Speaking of being the same as a half, isn't 11/22 the same as a half? Because 11 is half of 22. And 6/9. Well, I can see that 6/9 is equivalent to 2/3 because 2 times 3 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9. And 10/100ths, I can divide both of those by 10 and get 1/10, so that's equivalent here. Okay, see how I did that? Now that I have these on a fraction line, or on the number line, I can kind of see what their decimal equivalents would be, and also which ones are larger or smaller than others. And it looks like we did a good job. Now, sometimes you'll have work like this where you'll need to fill in the boxes. I want you to pause the video right here and figure out what numbers belong in these boxes, and then resume the video. Okay, when you answered these problems, you should have found these answers. Okay, so check your work. See how you're doing. Now, here's the one thing that I want you to put in your notes. So go to your next clean page. Your topic is equivalent fractions, so you're going to write equivalent fractions at the top of the page and copy down these notes. This is the most important thing to remember about equivalent fractions. You can multiply or divide by anything you want, any whole number you choose, as long as you follow the golden rule. Now, this isn't the real golden rule, you know, do unto others as you would have others do unto you, but this is our golden rule for equivalent fractions. Okay, so the golden rule is this: whatever you do to the denominator, do the same to the numerator. You can also think about that in reverse. Whatever you do to the numerator, do the same to the denominator. Okay, the golden rule of equivalent fractions just means that if you multiply the numerator by 2, you also have to multiply the denominator by 2. If you decide to divide the denominator by 4, you also have to divide the numerator by 4. Whatever you do to the one, you got to do the other. Here's an example. Let's say our fraction is 3/5. We can multiply by 2, as long as we multiply both the numerator and the denominator by 2. And if we do that, we get the equivalent fraction 6/10. If we multiply by different numbers here, our fractions won't be equivalent. Make sure you have these notes copied down, and then you can proceed on your assignment sheet.